Hi, Phil. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, Courtney. Great to see you.
You look so peaceful on this beautiful day. I was thinking it's a pretty deep day today to go deep. I think we're going to go very deep today. Who knows what we're going to talk about? But you look very peaceful.
Well, thank you. It's a sunny, beautiful day here, and we've had some really cold weather recently, so it definitely feels like spring is stirring.
Yeah, it's interesting about the weather and how strange it's been in different places, right? Not what you would expect. Expect the unexpected, I'll say, right? It's interesting about expectations and why we suffer. It's because we expect something different.
Mhm. And we had a lunar eclipse recently, and the next morning it was 45 degrees here, which is easily 20 degrees colder than normal. And it definitely felt like something just swept over, much like the eclipse. You know, the the light darkened, and in that dark time, everything became very, very cold, and it has taken us a little bit of time to warm up again. But it definitely felt severe almost. It was normal when you went to bed and you woke up to very, very cold weather.
Yeah, I mean, what an interesting way to explain eclipse. I mean, it just the energy of what's happening, how something can change instantly overnight, right? I mean, it could go from one temperature to another very fast, and it's almost shocking, and there's a coldness about it. And feelings sometimes have a way of being very uncomfortable.
And I do know that when people are standing under a full solar eclipse, when everything goes fully dark, that everything does suddenly get very dark and cold.
Oh yeah, we were there. We went to the one in New York years ago. I don't know what year, maybe 2017 or 2018, and we watched the solar eclipse and it was complete. It was eerie. It got it was almost scary. I did not. So I went under the eclipse this time. So I actually we woke up, I set the alarm for 2:44. I think it was 2:54, but we went outside around 2:44 and the sky was, but it actually didn't feel like the solar eclipse where it got very dark. It was beautiful and it was very bright orange and then you could see the stars and it was glimmering. But in the solar one, it felt scary. It felt like the world was coming to an end.
Can you imagine what people felt before we had a scientific understanding of what an eclipse was? Imagine that happening without warning, or even when there are times when they could expect it, they still believed that it was some kind of
Evil.
the command that made this happen. So even though you and I had that eerie experience, they must have had it a hundredfold.
But I wonder, this is what I keep thinking about, Phil. I keep on thinking if maybe we were better off back then. Because if you think about it like this, right? It is a very profound time, right? It's the way the dragon's eating the sun or eating the moon, right? And we have these issues in our life that are karmic issues that come up for us, and in a way feels like we have no control over. And so you say if I was back in the day and I watched the moon being covered or the sun being covered, I would have fear, I would be scared, I would think it's the sky. But maybe we're all fearful and scared in general. And we just now have we create more drama outside of ourselves versus having it be the sky.
Well, it can be scary and feel fearful to feel disconnected from nature and its natural movements. So to experience these phenomenon and yet not have a feeling of connection or some kind of profound experience is very, very scary and completely isolating, because then you're so alone that you're not connected to anything. You're stuck in your head.
Yeah. And and back in the day, I do think I keep on going back to we needed each other more. So we had to spend time with each other and we would have been bored. I think about we have so much distractions that we're capable of never having conversations with people. I used to sit on the subway and talk to strangers I still do. I talk to strangers all the time. I put my phone down, I do, but a lot of times it doesn't, there's no opening for that, right? But I have the most beautiful conversations with strangers. I love my conversations with strangers. It's like I could love them just without even knowing them. But now everyone's so busy on their phones and we are missing out on having these connections and these opportunities. And there's this, at least if the sun went away and we didn't know if it was going to come back, we would figure it out together. And so maybe there's something about not knowing everything that's a gift of not thinking we know everything.
Right. And if we were that fearful in those older times, we would wrap ourselves around each other and huddle together and reassure ourselves,
Yeah, and support one another and really show up for each other and support one another.
and not let each other out of our sight. We always stay close because it's much safer to do that.
Yeah, does it allow us like to open our hearts more? I keep on thinking of the heart, like with the way Mars is, and it's being asked to really question our heart and how we are with each other, I think, about how opened our hearts are to one another.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing to be open with your heart.
Well, and to need each other. I think like I have a very hard time needing anyone. I don't know if you do, but I have a very hard time needing someone. So I kind of it's where I have my defenses up a bit. I don't need you. I'm okay, but we need
Mm,
each other.
mm. So true.
And I think especially now.
Yes, and I think the way our society is planned and structured, it really doesn't, it no longer encourages that kind of connection, which
Yeah, and
is which is
I
wrong.
think that I wonder if we're going to go back. Like I keep on thinking, I believe that the next generation that has children are going to be very different with their phones. I just think so. I think we've seen, or if they can, if it's, I just go back to the habit, right? Our habits are so, I keep on thinking I have a very bad habit. It's not a very bad habit, but I have a bad habit. I play with my hair and I'm like, now it doesn't seem like a very bad habit, but it is in a way. And I've had it since I was like 2. And I keep on thinking, oh my God, how do you get rid of a habit that you've had for so long?
It's it's interesting that you mentioned that habit because it's hand focused, which is very Gemini. I noticed lots of Geminis with, I'm including myself, with a tendency to be fidgety some way or somehow.
Interesting. I never thought about it like that. And it really calms me down. And then so today I actually looked it up. Well, why do I play with my hair? And I've been playing since I was 1. I remember my mother literally cut off all my hair so that I wouldn't play with my hair. It did not help. And what it said is well, how genius you are because I have a Gemini moon. And in my past life, I have Gemini energy. And it's all about being fidgety when you're uncomfortable or bored and I don't think that's why I do it anymore. I just think now it's very much a habit or you feel anxious, so it's a way of calming and soothing yourself. So that's so interesting because boredom, fidgetiness is very words that are associated with the energy of Gemini. So fascinating. And I am
And
not bored ever actually, but I think I've just attracted this habit that I really have been doing for so long.
and you can't see me when I'm doing it, but I'll find a ribbon or a rubber band and do the same thing with my hands that you do with your hair. I'll just endlessly twist it around my fingers, and it is soothing to me. And it's not very conscious. It's just something that I think it helps me think better. If my
Yeah,
hands are
I think it helps me concentrate. So I think that's an interesting thing. I actually think it concentrates me. It's like I kind of, I settle myself in a way. I feel like I'm so much calmer. The moment I do it, I'm so calm and I'm like, this is great. It's like, I mean, I guess it's better than doing drugs.
oh
Would
yes.
be my Piscean energy, but I still think it's a habit that maybe I have to. I keep on thinking of like I'm Jewish, but I celebrate everything. And I thought maybe I should try to give it up for Lent, but not that I celebrate Easter or Lent, but I do celebrate Easter a bit. And then, but it's hard to give up a habit.
Especially when you're not that aware of it. I think becoming aware of it is the important first step. But even though, I'm even doing it now, I'm folding this piece of paper into the tiniest fold I can, and then I'll find another piece of paper and do the same.
Oh,
And
that's a good one.
I'm not even aware that I do it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't think I used to be aware of it, but it drives my family crazy. So they're like, you have to stop. You have to stop. You have to stop. And I'm like, but the paper's a good idea. It's that, and I was thinking people pull their hair out. And so I was like, lucky I don't do that. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's better than other habits.
Maybe you should try
I am.
with,
I'm trying it. I'm like, this is
you
so
know,
great.
or a piece of ribbon. Piece of ribbon works great too.
My mother plays with a shmati. I'm going to look to see what Gemini planet she has. My mother, like, she's 86 and she always has, her hands are always moving, always. And it's like she's always playing with like maybe she should have given me a little play thing when I was a kid and I would have had a better habit. Because in some ways that doesn't hurt you, right? What's the big deal if you, but I like this. I'm going to try this because I asked the angels today. So I have a story to tell you. And I think I believe in angels. Do you believe in angels?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe that humans are angels to each other, giving each other messages. So that's what I
Yes.
believe. Okay, so I'm at this restaurant. We dropped off our littlest daughter to go to the airport, and we go to get pancakes. And we never get pancakes because I'm gluten free and there's no pancakes. But I found this place and they have pancakes. I'm so excited to share with my husband because I don't even like breakfast, but it was lunchtime. So we go for lunch. It's like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, we have to try these pancakes. So we're sitting there, we have this really deep, interesting conversation. I don't know. Did you know that the moon was void yesterday? So it was like this day, nothing got done. It was like this, I don't know if you got anything done yesterday, but it was like this very dreamy, kind of intuitive day. So we're at this place and we're getting pancakes. And this woman comes over and says, we're going to comp your meal because it was so late, took so long. And I'm like, no, we didn't complain. Like we're both sitting at the table and we said we didn't complain. It's not been so long. We were very happy. They had gluten-free biscuits too. So we were very happy. Okay, wait to hear the story. So I was like, why? You don't need to comp our meal. It's fine. I don't know why you're even apologizing. And then I stopped. Our meal was in front of us. And I thought, huh, maybe she's an angel. Literally, maybe she's an angel. And this is like a God wink. And I said, maybe you're apologizing for something that hasn't happened yet. And so I looked down at my plate. I said, I haven't touched my food. I'm like literally like going through the motions of this. Like, I haven't touched my food. I ordered gluten-free pancakes. Is there a chance that these might not be gluten-free and you're apologizing beforehand and you're like an angel and you don't know? Because I believe in angels, I said. I think this girl must have thought I was crazy. Well, lo and behold, she went right to she wasn't the girl who took our order. She was like the manager. She went right to the kitchen and they weren't gluten-free.
There you go.
So she took the plate and she comped our meal anyway. And I didn't even complain at
Right.
all once. And I thought, wow, are we listening to the messages? Like the person told me she's sorry, and I could have just not listened to her. But instead, I was very intuitive that day, and I was very like in la la land a bit. And I was like, wait, I think you're apologizing for something that might not have happened yet.
Isn't it? That's so interesting that you can pick up on subtleties that haven't been expressed yet, but the energy is there. The vibration is already out there.
Yeah, and I guess for her too, right? And she got
Mhm.
a message. I
That's
don't know
right.
where she even got the message from. Did
Right.
did the person that was waiting on us feel bad that we were waiting? We weren't waiting very long.
Mhm.
I think it's so fascinating on how we're all affecting each other and how maybe there's always messages and we're just not listening to them. And we could be told beforehand that maybe you should just listen.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's all kind of a game of telephone as far as I understand it, because no matter how well we do at communicating, we're still overcoming interference. So imagine I'm having a feeling in my heart that I want to share. The feeling goes to my brain, it goes to my throat, and I express it, and it travels through the air, hits somebody else's ear, to their brain, to their heart. So it has to go through all these steps. And I think it is possible to communicate that essence, but you're because we're human and we live in a physical plane, there is going to be unexpected obstacles or some kind of incoherence, either small or large. But I think the game of telephone that we all played as kids is a great example of that.
Oh, I mean, it's a great. I think I love how it's always you always just hit everything on the nail because we were just talking about the game of telephone last night because my mother heard something and then she changed it and she created a whole bunch of drama. We love her. We love her. She created a whole bunch of drama. And I said to the girls, I said, you get to choose how you perceive things, though, right? So it's a very interesting thing because let's say I say I love you, right?
Mhm.
Now you could you get to choose how you perceive that. And I really mean to you, I love you, Phil. And you might, based on your heart and your experience of what I love you means, you might not take the words I love you to mean that I really just love you. You might make it mean something completely different.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But I think that's why we're together here in the same giant schoolroom trying to learn these things.
Oh yeah, I do. And I think maybe we're supposed to bother each other too. I really believe that we're meant to bring up the wounds. And I think that goes back to the lunar eclipse. Emotions will come up for them to heal and our perceivement of things. And I think it was in a very critical sign. And so how we even hear things as being critical too, and how we are judgmental of ourselves. But I love that, right? We could have a feeling in our heart, then our brain, the way you said, it's really brilliant. And then it goes to that other person, and we don't know how they're going to perceive it. And I find texts to be, I think much better when when people hear me or speak to me, it always comes across very clear. I think sometimes when you're in texting mode,
Oh,
it could be easily misconstrued. And I misconstrue things a lot too. I think, wait, did they mean this? Like, did they mean to say this?
that gets me into trouble all the time because there's no tone in a text
There's
or
no
an
heart. There's no like,
so you can completely misinterpret what is being said. Something that's a compliment is interpreted as an insult. Something that is shared in a spirit of giving is somehow a threat when it's received because it doesn't have the tone. It doesn't have that human delivery. And I think it's a very dangerous phenomenon
what? What's a dangerous?
that we communicate. We rely more in a method of communication that has no tone. Because I've heard so many stories about people communicating via email and text, and just a series of misunderstandings that escalate into something that gets blown way out of proportion. There's lots of hurt feelings, and you can't you
Wait,
can't
I think
undo it.
okay, I think this is so. perfect. I think like talk about angels and messengers. And I think what's so interesting about what we're talking about now is if you're like, okay, Mercury is in retrograde in Aries, and if you're offended by something that somebody says, you have to tell them because it's just it could be a miscommunication, or be very careful with what you say or what you write because it could be misconstrued, misconceived. I mean, perfect timing for this conversation. And it could really hurt relationships. If you're not honest and you don't say, hey, mate, did you mean to say this? Or what did you mean by this?
Right.
Because people do lose relate. That's so interesting. I mean, people could lose relationships pretty easily now. And I say get angry. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a very good word for this moment, right? We could get angry
Hmm.
for something that we didn't mean anything by.
Right. So I heard through a friend that somebody had said to them, you know that you're being wooed, right?
Being
W
what?
wooed. You know, to woo somebody, WOO, to
Yeah.
romantically seduce somebody.
Oh, I like that word. Wooed.
Wooed. She's being wooed, she's
Yeah.
being courted, by this person. So the person heard it, thought that they were saying, you're being rude, right? And then the person said, I'm being rude. And the person thought that they were saying wooed. And they said, yes, you are. Yes, I want you to know that you are being rude, wooed. And
Like
it
she's
just,
giving a compliment. I mean, literally, like you're saying something so good and she perceived it as bad.
as an insult. What do you mean I'm being rude?
Well, but that's the thing is she was brave enough to say, did she say this is I'm
Yes, because she was so upset.
good, but that's the gift. I mean, but now how
Right,
if she didn't say it and she
right,
just got off the phone and she was like, he's such a jerk.
right. So they both laughed about it before it got out of hand.
Yeah, but I
Before,
think it is interesting because that actually happened to me earlier today. And I said something like, oh, I said, something nice actually, and they were like, oh, and they took it and they said, oh, of course you would say something like that. I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I would say something like that. I said a compliment, like, and it was interesting on the perceivement and how we could perceive things and we could think we know what someone's saying or what we think someone's saying, and are we even actually hearing what anyone's saying? This is my new thing. Are we even hearing what people are saying, or are we so in our own mind, in our own head, thinking we know what they're going to say? I said I actually don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. I am I practice total presence that like whatever just going to respond and I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. And I think that's how I'm not thinking about what am I going to say before I say it kind of. Does that make sense? I don't know
yes,
how your mind works, but I used to be like that. I used to be like in my own head thinking, "Oh, I'm going to respond this way," but I don't anymore.
right. If you're too guarded about what you want to say, then nobody's really going to know what you want or need or what your expectations are. And then you can become frustrated at other people because you've chosen not to be verbal about your thoughts or your ideas or your wishes or your wants. But again, if you do decide to share those things, then you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think that we're all if I would say one of the main things of what we're going through now in the energy of the world is really understanding what we want and having the courage to ask for it. Just like you said, right? If I don't tell people what I want, I'm going to be angry and upset. And so I better make sure that I'm clear on speaking what I want. And I say clear because it can easily be misconstrued. And we could feel hurt, or the other person could feel hurt.
Yeah, and these things are always the stuff of great drama. When you see a movie or see a scene between people, there's always the subtext, right? They're talking about going shopping, but what they're really talking about is maybe the end of their relationship. And it's very human to, test the waters first and, throw a line out with a comment or two. And then if it's received well, then you go deeper.
Oh, give me an example, because I think this is an interesting conversation.
Gosh, I wonder if I can think of a scene in a movie that demonstrates that. I can't
I keep on
act.
thinking of like Nancy Meyers movies for some reason. So,
Oh,
so is there a Nancy Meyers movie like Something's Got to Give or Father of the Bride? I keep on thinking of this. I keep on having this image of that one of those movies. So I wonder if there's a line in one of those movies like that you could explain. Do you know those movies?
of course. Yes, I know Nancy Meyers. I interviewed her.
Oh, I need to hear. I
I'll
wait,
have,
okay. Now you have to tell me this because I've been very fascinated with Nancy Meyers, and in the sense of she's one of the few people that has this eye to detail that
yes.
has and that she's behind the scenes, and yet you know her name and she's famous. And
Mhm.
how did she you have to tell me like about the interview because I think maybe that's even why I've had this conversation because I keep on thinking about her way that she could see things and then create this magic on the screen and make us feel like we're in real life, like really in real life. And what an art. And then not only that, but even that being able to know her name and that
Mhm.
she is a name that's synonymous with beauty and with creation and with magnificent, like you want a home like she creates.
Yeah, she's a lovely person, and I think it's because she's a woman that she has that perspective. I think it's very intentional. Anything on a film screen in a film frame is all intentional. The bowl of fruit that you see, the light, the landscape, anything is planned, and she was excellent at that. And
Well, not only was she excellent, but like you've said this before, and I've thought about it, but very rarely is it so obvious that it's perfect. And
Mhm.
yet she is a name that we know. I do know any other people that do what she does that have a name in that way.
Well, you could think of Hitchcock. Let's say it's a brand. She's
Okay.
she's her brand. Or Tarantino, definitely, but it's completely different from her approach to life. I think she intentionally
Do you think she
does all the.
intentionally created the brand? Like, how do you think I think it's an interesting question. How did she become so successful versus other people that might have had the eye and might have done things that are really good, but didn't get successful? What would you say the difference is with that?
Well, she has an interesting story. Very, very. Uh, it could be a movie at all its own. She was married to a gent, and
Yeah. Who was she married to?
Charles Schur was his name.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was his name.
Okay. It's okay if we're misconceiving something, but let's hear the story. I love it.
Well, she supported him in his career as a director and was the power behind the throne, if you want to put it succinctly. Right? They were a great creative team. They did great work together. And then they separated under traumatic circumstances. I don't know the details, but it wasn't an easy
It wasn't
separation.
amicable.
Right. But it was in the trades. I don't If it was in the trades a lot, it meant that there was something turbulent going on. And I don't want to speak out of turn here either. But well, the result was that she was more or less spurned, and because she was no longer part of that creative team, I think Hollywood kind of wrote her off because she was there to support the director, but she turned that on her on its head and emerged as a more successful director than the husband.
Yeah, much more. I mean, I've even heard of the other guy. And what's interesting is she took, I love this because she took something that was very hard and probably heartbreaking and painful and suffering. It's like the total breakdown. And she literally not only had to break through, but rose to the top of her field. I mean, and then you think maybe it all happened for her. Maybe it was meant to be that she had whatever happened to her in that way so that we would know her name and we could appreciate her. It's an interesting to think about if you would how we really appreciate her and how many people appreciate her. And I'll say, don't count anyone out. I love this story so much. It hits my heart so much because it's so easy for us to not believe in ourselves or to stand below somebody or to give someone else the credit for our own work and how much courage and braveness it takes to want to succeed and to get your name out there and to show your artistic skills and your intelligence and I think she's incredible. I think she's one of the game changers in our world.
She has earned all those accolades.
Wait,
She
so you
really has.
interviewed her? I think it's so interesting, Phil. You're such an interesting human. I love you. I mean, I love
I
you if you were not interesting, but I do love you.
I have to find that photo. I will send it to you in the next 2 days.
Yeah, and you also owe me a website, but we'll talk about that after.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's okay
Okay.
because we're on the call, so I don't know what he's doing. But I will say this to you. I think you're so interesting because it's like a cat. You've had like 9 lives, I think. I think that there's so much history within Phil that I could probably I think there's no accents that I've been thinking about her for days and I have to do more research. It's like do you know the story do you know the girl who wrote Harry Met Sally? Do you know her story?
The girl who wrote it. Oh, sure.
What's her name?
Um, um, give me a second. They're sisters. They're both writers and directors. It'll come to me. I know
Okay.
exactly.
Well, I'll say this that the story was that she was expecting to get
Nora
money.
Ephron.
Yes, Nora Ephron. So she was expecting to get money from somebody that died. She was really in need of money. She needed money. And I was reading her book. It was very interesting. She was expecting to get money from someone that died, and she owed money. And so she was having this expectation to have money and it would put her at ease. And she needed the money for whatever reason. I don't remember. I read the book years ago. And so what happened was that she didn't get the money and she owed money and she ended up writing Harry Met Sally. And so out of something that was saw as so negative and so not helpful and she was so angry about, it turned out to be the greatest gift for her because if she had gotten the money, she never would have wrote that book. And that
Mhm.
or she wouldn't have wrote that movie. And that
Mhm.
movie was a great movie. And when we're suffering sometimes our greatest art comes our greatest talent our greatest ability because we have to rise up or like the it becomes the phoenix rising literally
Yep.
it's
I
it's
think
it's amazing isn't it like how we could see something that usually our lowest points in our life or the darkest moments or when the sun goes out or the moon is covered that in that darkness there's always a light.
right. When you're pushed right to the edge and you just don't think there's any edge left, that's when you find your strength and your brilliant idea.
Yeah,
And
and maybe when you're right, I could go back to like you could see the edge of the cliff. And if someone's going to push you, you could go back and hold on tight, but your chances are you're not going to. And so there is a free fall of letting yourself have to have faith and trust and belief. And I think all those people probably had that experience where they had to let go and let God. I mean, it is, but imagine if they didn't. Imagine if they kept on holding on to what wasn't working and they were so stubborn and they weren't willing to make the changes that need to happen, how we would have lost out on knowing them.
Yeah, they again, they because they went through that, they created these stories so that when we have those similar trials, we'll know how it's done. We'll know that we're not alone in this experience, that others have had similar obstacles and they rose above them.
Yeah,
It's
I feel
really
like what I think we're all going, I think what's interesting is we're at a time where maybe we're all going through a period of where we're being really asked to change and transform and not do it how we've always done it, right? Like stop grasping to where who we were.
yes.
It's like
It is
old news. It's like you don't have to do that anymore.
right, and it really is. It really is going to happen collectively and individually now.
We're all at the edge. And I'll say the people that I really do believe this, and I'm not being mean, and I don't think anyone that's listening to us, I hope you're listening to us, and I hope you're being willing to do the free fall because if you're continuing to want to hold on to what was, you're not going to be very happy because it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt too much to go keep on holding on and believing I think almost believing what we believe.
Right, and you're going to have to let go anyway. You know, it like I said, if you can either do it and make it less traumatic for yourself, or you can wait till you're pushed because
Yeah, I mean, and they will push you. I mean, the universe will push you. It's like if you don't listen, I go back to the woman who said, I'm sorry. If I hadn't really heard her, I might have eaten those pancakes. I would have been so sick. I would have hives all over my body. I would have been so sick. There's no question. I would have been so uncomfortable. But I stopped and I was like, wait, maybe there's more to this message. And so
mhm,
maybe whatever's happening in our lives is there's more to the message, and we have to really be open-minded to it. And I think that's such a also I keep on thinking about Jep, how people could say the Jupiter where we expand things is in the sign of it's not where it's good. And I'll say to you, I disagree with that. I think it's exactly where it's supposed to be. So we could change how we think, how we could open our minds, how we don't have to grasp. If it was in the sign where it felt safe and comfortable, it would have just behaved the way you want it to behave. And if you
mhm.
want to expand your life, and if you want your life to grow, and you want more abundance in it, you have to open your mind. You have to change how you're thinking. You have to change how you perceive things. You have to, or else you are going to hurt so much.
Yes, and it's two sides of the same coin because Pisces energy is really about embracing and surrendering, and the more feminine energy of accepting what's coming to you and through you, right? Whereas the Aries energy is the opposite of that. It's propelling forward and being heroic and just knocking down every obstacle. But the feminine energy is just as strong and can be just as challenging to embrace. The
I think
idea
it's
of
harder. I think what's interesting is I think I actually think it's harder because it's what you can't see. It's faith.
and surrendering. So there's nothing wrong with surrendering to the unknown and finding courage to allow it to unfold rather than overreacting and acting in fear.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about what you're saying is that we're at I love it because we're at the maybe in order to be really brave, you really have to believe too. Believe in yourself and believe in your creativity and believe in your strength. And then that would give us courage over fear. But that real belief, that real trusting that there's angels. I mean, literally, I have to tell you, I have people that never believed in angels or anything. It's very hard not to believe when there's magic everywhere. There just is. It's like the synchronicities, these small little things that we see day to day. And you're like, is that odd or is this God? There's too many. Is it by chance that all these things are connected? I don't think so.
I think that you, when you do surrender and allow yourself to embrace the unknown, you can do so in a way that's much less traumatic if you find a way to quiet yourself down, to really, really quiet yourself down and then listen. When you listen that way, I think you can hear the you within you. That
The
the
highest
you,
self, your highest self,
the
not
you,
the noise
right,
chatter.
right. The you that is observing what you're doing. I know that sounds crazy, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I think I've been talking a lot about this, and I'll say to you, I think the you inside you is your soul. Like, what does your
Yes,
soul want from you? And that little voice, I don't even know what that little voice that's not the soul, but it's exhausting. And that you're right. When you quiet down your mind, the soul will speak to you, and you'll know what to do.
but the ego is louder than the soul because the ego has to do its work
Well,
of
it thinks it's going to keep you safe. It's like, let me keep you safe.
it's acting very sincerely in its way, right? This is how we're going to do it. I made a list and follow and all, watch out for this and don't forget that, all that stuff. But there's that constant voice that's always speaking, but you have to slow down. You have to push away the egoic details. And if you do that and you just sit long enough, that you'll hear it. You'll know. It's called intuition. You'll just know. This
Yeah,
is
I,
this is
I
what I'm
think,
meant to
and
do.
I think there's ways to get it easier, right? I think by writing, right, with script,
Meditating.
meditating. People do yoga. Some people do yoga.
I
Um,
think people going to church
Music.
and going to synagogues and just praying, just
Oh
the
yeah,
act of praying.
yeah, and just having something. I go back to like what you're saying, that there's something bigger than ourselves, right? There's this. But I think I keep on thinking about this here, and now let's hear this because this is what I talked a lot about yesterday. Is okay, so we have the soul, and the soul is talking to us, and it knows what is for our highest good. And so that is talking to us. And if we see it and don't listen, that's where I think we really hurt ourselves. And I think that's where the numbing comes in. And so, how important it is not to listen to the voice that you're saying in that mind where there's the ego, but to listen to that soul and take care of it, nurture it, because it might not be what you want to hear and it might not be what you want to do, but you know it's for your highest good. I mean, we're pretty stubborn human beings, right? It's hard for us to change.
And for some people, it's only mind. It's always mind. They don't. They're not connected to what we're talking about, and to them, I
Intellect. I mean, you could call it intellect, right? Some people, they have this idea that it's their intellect and that somehow it's weak to trust the soul or the heart. And I'll say there is nothing weak about trusting your heart and your soul, and intellect could get us in a lot of trouble.
yes, because that's I think it's only the intellect is very limiting, and other people would say the absolute opposite. But it, there's some things that I just know, and
Me too. And there's a knowing, and when you know the knowing, it's like I love what you say it, because when you talk about the soul too, you have this smile that comes on. It's like light. It's so nice. It's love.
Mhm.
And I think it's perfection. It's knowing our oneness with the divine. It's knowing that you and I are connected, something bigger, so much bigger than that we can understand, or everybody that's listening to us. It's like this intertwined experience of the infinite. And it's love. It is pure love, where I think the intellect, it's hurt. It can be hurt easily. It can feel pain much easier. It could feel much more disconnected.
Yeah.
So, well,
Love is
I love you, and I love that our souls have a great conversation, and that that the woman who we talked about, who you interviewed, why can't I remember her name, that she
Nancy
trusted
Myers.
her, what's her name again?
Nancy Myers.
That she trusted her soul.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I think if you don't trust your soul, your mind could have, like, her mind could have driven her crazy.
She, yes, I mean, she's spoken about this, about the the real devastating loss that she experienced. And now that I think more about it, it came out of the blue that her husband was going to leave her. That's the way I remember it. It was all very shocking to her, and she was cast aside. That's the was the feeling, and it must have been especially devastating because they were not only married, but they were creative partners and they were a dynamic team. So it was,
And she probably, and I could feel, I'll say, I would be interested to see her chart, but not appreciated, not loved, not seen for how talented and how and what a difference she made in his career. It's there. I met this guy once at the beach, and he's this older man, and it's funny because he's not married, but he's this older man. He's great. So I go to the beach, and he's a charmer, boy. I really charming. And he talks, and he's like the king. And he made a comment, and it stayed with me. And he said, "Behind every great man, there's a better woman." No judgment, Phil. But I'll say, I do think that in the day where women, back in the day where women did not have big careers, there was a lot of women. I mean, you look at, right? Like you look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who brought her husband right through college and really helped him. And she was amazing what she could do, right? And I do think that behind every great woman or behind every great man, there's a partner that wants them to succeed. Whether it's behind every great man, there's a great woman, or behind every great man, there's a great man. But it makes it a lot easier when somebody really is helping you and supporting you, and then you might not appreciate that. And I will bet you she felt very unappreciated and not seen for how valuable she was to him. And I'll bet you his life did not work so well after that. And so we create our story, right? She created Magnificent, and I will guess I'll bet you he was pretty jealous of her at the end.
yeah, things went downhill for him after that.
There's a little bit of glorification in that, I have to say, but that's not kind. That's not my soul talking. That's my ego
Well,
talking.
it it's a karmic situation, I think, because it became evident that she was way more talented and competent and capable and intelligent than everyone first thought of her.
Yeah, but I
And
think this is the gift. I actually think there's the gift, is that we could look back at that, right? And if she's from her highest self, she could really appreciate feeling so low. I go back to this because it's like these moments and times that we get to choose. And she obviously chose the higher path. And it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. That's not her story anymore. It goes back to like Jackie Kennedy. Jackie Kennedy said, like right at the last days of her life, she literally said, my biggest regret is that I wasted my whole life talking about 5 minutes of it, because the 5 minutes that happened in her life depicted her whole life afterwards. It stayed with her, it hurt her, and it didn't have to, right? It's in a way she trauma hit her really hard and it kept on it and she hurt a lot. And I don't blame her for it. But you could see that this woman on the other way used it and rose up and it didn't have to be her story.
Right. Right.
So that takes a lot of courage. And I think she's a great example of courage. I had to go look over her chart to see her chart and how proud I am of her. And it just makes her even more special. I love her. So thank you. I can't wait to hear more about who you've interviewed. We have many more talks, and I have
Yes.
so much to pull out of that Phil over there. He's like a quiet angel that has so much to share, but he
Well, I'm definitely going to find that photo and send it to you. And then
yeah.
happy to talk. I've interviewed or known women like that in the industry. Polly Platt is another wonderful woman with a kind of a similar story. She was, do you want to hear this?
Yes.
It's Hollywood gossip, but it's not,
Oh,
it's real,
Phil. We know it's not, it's telling us a story that can all help us.
it's common knowledge. It's legendary now. Peter Bogdanovich and Polly Platt were married, and she was again influential in helping him with his role as director. And her area of expertise was production design, but she was involved in casting films, and with him, it was in every aspect of the making of these movies that her husband made. And one of the movies that he made starred Sybil Shepherd. And suddenly they became an item. And again, it was another situation of Polly Platt being cast aside, this spurned. This all came as a shock to her because they had kids together and she was raising the kids and the husband was shooting this movie and essentially
Well,
never
I
came
have to
back.
say this because I have to say this. I mean, it just happened on Wicked, but you go into the movies and you're taken away on a retreat almost, and you have this container and it's magical and someone's feeding you, somebody's doing all your stuff, you're seen as like a god. You're not having to take out the garbage, you're not having to take care of the screaming kids. It's this point where you're in a magical world in a way. And you fall in love with I think the energy of the film in some ways, and it's easy to think you're in love with that other person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I would think it's very hard not to fall in love. Like,
True.
so I mean, the other side of it is I know it comes as a great surprise to people, but it feels like it's a recipe for disaster. Like to
Mm-hmm.
take people that are, it's in a way, I'm surprised it doesn't happen all the time. And I think it does actually. It happens a lot. I mean, it just happened with a lot of people. I mean, it's happened a lot.
Right. It happened with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie when they were on a shoot.
Yeah, and it
So
just happened with, the girl who is Sutton Foster, and he was married for years. Do you know the guy who was he was married forever. The guy who God, I don't know, but another a very famous actor that everyone knows. So I think it just happens, right? And life happens. Now, what happened to Polly? Like, did she overcome this?
yeah, but again, it was very traumatic because Sybil Shepherd was this young blonde
I mean,
ingenue.
gorgeous. I mean, and gorgeous.
There was a huge age gap between Bogdanovich and Sybil Shepherd, and so she was cast aside with the kids, and it was very rough on her. But she climbed her way up. She was involved in some great movies. She wrote and she directed and she produced. She
Oh, I have
worked.
to look her up.
She's a dynamo, wonderful woman, and no. she's a straight shooter, which is
which is
a
good.
refreshing characteristic to have in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to
wonderful.
be, I think
Yeah.
it's very hard to be human and to be in love and to trust somebody and to open your heart. And there's always that possibility that it's going to get hurt. And then how do you keep on living? How do you keep on opening your heart? And how do you not make it that you're not wonderful? I think that's the message, right? It's like all this stuff could happen to you and
Mm-hmm.
you could be really hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be because you're less than, right? And that someone's, because what is beauty anyway, right? Just someone, there's going to be people that are go back to like Venus and retrograde and what you look like. And there will be people younger than you. There will be people prettier than you. There will be people with more money. And it doesn't matter. It's just how do you feel good about yourself and whether someone loves me or someone doesn't love me, and how do I feel confident in who I am? I think it's a great message that Polly can, that she's a straight shooter and that she healed. Did she ever get remarried and find love again? Oh, please tell me she did. Please.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Oh, I hope somehow she found somebody and she
Yeah.
shares her life with somebody somehow.
Yeah. Well, this has been very revealing. We went down many interesting paths as we always do, but very rewarding. And I definitely feel energized and
Me too. And I can and feeling like we could conquer the world.
mhm. Yes.
So thank you. And thank you for this great idea of piece of paper. I think you might have healed me, Phil. I think you're a healer. So I
Yes.
will see you next week and I love you so much. And to
Love you
everybody
too.
else, thank
Yes.
you for watching.
Thank you, everybody.